You're listening to Mammalwatching with Charles Foley and Jon Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.
Welcome to the Mammal Watching podcast with me, Charles Foley in Minneapolis.
And me, Jon Hall in New York.
How are you, Jon?
I am okay, Charles. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you. Yes, indeed. So I guess this is the time of the year where you tally up your final mammal list for 2022. So can you share with us where you're at with that?
How on earth did you guess that, Charles? Yes, I am completing my species seen in 22 spreadsheet as we speak. It's been a good year. You and I got the year off to a flying start with our trip to North Carolina for red wolves and golden mice. And that took me to 1999 mammals. Then I saw my lynx in Romania. It was number 2000. And I'm finishing the year on about 2080, maybe 2082, depending on a couple of still to be identified bats in Madagascar. So yeah, 85 or so species this year, which was a bumper year.
Wow, that is great. Yes, that was a magnificent trip to North Carolina with Todd Pusser, and seeing the red wolf and the golden mouse. Yeah. Wonderful animals. I had a superb lynx sighting this year up in the Gunflint Trail, northern Minneapolis.
Of course you did, yeah.
Yeah, with my daughter, we followed a lynx for an hour and a half during the day and watched it hunting, etc. Yeah. So that was fantastic, absolutely wonderful.
Didn't that get picked up by the press as well? I saw that one of Sierra's pictures was in the Minneapolis newspapers.
That's right. Yes, the Star Tribune published one of her photographs of the lynx. So that was really nice.
Yeah.
That was great sighting. And I also added for me some magnificent animals, the American marten, which is one that I want to see for a long time, and also a couple of great species in Ecuador, the spectacled bear and the mountain tapir. So it's been a really good year for me too.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's hope 2023 will be as good for us both.
Yes, indeed. Yes, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So for this holiday special, we're talking about mammal watching with the uninitiated, or at least with people who don't identify themselves to be mammal watchers, or perhaps simply people who didn't know quite what they were getting into when they went on a trip. And we'll be talking to several different people. First, my wife, Amber. Then Ian Thompson, who you'll know from his trip reports, and his partner Tracy Watchhurst and their kids Ben and Josie from Canada about some of the family trips they've taken. And finally, we'll be chatting with Stephen Arthur, Cheryl Antonucci's partner.
So our first guest today is Amber Melhouse. And Amber is in the invidious position of being married to the world's foremost mammal watcher, which I suspect comes with many, many pros and maybe possibly one or two cons. Anyway, that's just me speculating out loud. But Amber, welcome to the podcast. It's great to finally have you here.
Well, thank you very much. I remember when this podcast was just a twinkle in your eyes.
So I was going to say, hi, Amber. I am actually sitting in a separate room for my own safety. But we'll see what happens.
Let's start first of all with just a little bit about your background, because you were, I think it's fair to say, not a mammal watcher growing up. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's a fair description. To this day, I've never seen a bear. There are lots of basic things I've never seen. I was just a normie.
Right. And so you marry Jon, and what was the first trip you ever did together?
And I just want to start off by saying you skipped a little bit there. I did marry Jon, but before that, he described himself as a quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, wildlife enthusiast. So our first trip was to Puerto Rico in 2012. I imagined poolside walks on the beaches, that type of thing, which we kind of did. But Jon was definitely preoccupied with the the mammal portion of the trip, which I had, never been on before. So we drove precariously with two young college students, bat researchers, just before dusk into a completely empty forest, like down a really treacherous hill. And I was like, what have I gotten myself into? And, Jon said, well, there will be some bats, and we're going to use a net to catch them. And I was imagining a butterfly net. I didn't know anything. And so dusk comes along, and the boys had set up a harp net in front of the cave, which, I was concerned the bats were going to get hurt. They're like, no, it's harmless. And so sure enough, come dusk, they came out in stages. I learned a lot about bats that night, but there must have been over 300,000 of them that had come out of the cave over a period of, I would say 3 or 4 hours. And I had never seen, or in particular heard, anything like that. And it was so beautiful. Just the sound of all those bats coming out, and that breeze, and they just whisk by you and they're never going to hit you. Yeah, but first, that was a great first experience for mammal watching.
Mm-hmm.
Also, rappelling down into, I think it was a different cave, and I was the first one to rappel down, and it was just like, a thin piece of rope, two college kids saying, go ahead, just like climb down. And I did. I was the first one down, and Jon told me later on, he said he was about to offer to let me wait in the car, and I realized he didn't know as much as I didn't know what I'd gotten into. He didn't know that I had this sense of adventure. So it worked out.
So I'm guessing probably at about the rappelling point was when you started to realize that the definition of enthusiast was a fairly broad one, at least in Jon's view.
I would say it started to dawn on me, wow, this guy really likes life off the beaten path. Okay.
I believe in under-promising and over-delivering in my definition of enthusiasm. But I have to say that the moment Amber went down that rope into that cave full of guano and was wading around, but actually enjoying it, I had big love hearts in my eyes. I was really starstruck then. That was the moment. She was a keeper.
The bat guano, huh? It's that sprinkling of gold dust.
It takes a special girl to look happy in that. Yeah.
Tell us about some of your other trips that you've been on with Jon, ones that have been impactful for you.
Oh gosh, they've all been impactful in their own way. First one that comes to mind is, there've been so many. I've seen more countries in the past 10 years since knowing Jon and going on these mammal trips than I have in my all the prior years of living. So it's been an adventure. One that comes to mind right away, actually, Charles, you were there, was Tanzania. And I'd never been to the African continent before. And it was such an adventure, and it was such a lifelong dream come true. The first night that we were there, you took us out on your Land Rover, or in your Land Rover. And then at one point you just stopped and you put like a pad up on top of the vehicle. Jon and I were up there hanging on, and you were slowly driving in the middle of nowhere under this incredible African sky that I'd never seen before. I just remember holding on and just thinking, this is the coolest thing I've ever done in my whole life. So that one stuck out for sure.
That was a good trip, that one, particularly since there was an open bar as well, which seldom happens on most of my mammal watching trips. But
you spotted a cheetah, didn't you, Amber? That was pretty cool.
I did.
Yeah,
yes,
it was a good
my
one.
first
It was a
trip.
great sighting, yeah, because they're not easily seen in that area. I'm assuming that on some of your trips, occasionally things must have gone wrong, or you must have just found yourself standing there thinking, what the heck are we doing over here?
Probably
hasn't
more
happened
so.
to you yet.
Yeah, probably more so the latter, because nothing ever goes wrong when John's on a trip. Just kidding. I haven't been there for most of the trips where there were major mishaps. I don't know if he's taking extra care when I'm with him or not, but the what the heck moment, yeah, many of those. One of I feel like we need 3 more hours for this, honestly, because I have so many of just like,
Yeah, no, we don't. That's
right
okay.
now. Huh?
We don't need 3 miles.
Well, it was in Italy. We were in Tuscany, and I think this was 2013. I'm bringing up early memories because those are the ones where I was really unaware of what is this, that he does. Why is he so passionate about it? But we had a really lovely dinner. We're driving home, and it's like a beautiful moon, and it's nice and bright out, and it's dark, and we're going back to this, cute little farmhouse that we're staying at. Radio's on, and I'm thinking like, this is really nice. And he's like, I'm just going to stop the car for a moment. And I thought he was going to, go pee or something, bit of a trek back to the farmhouse. And he gets out of the car, opens the trunk, brings out a huge flashlight that he plugs into the lighter. And he says, can you just hold this and point it? I'm in the passenger seat, and just point it, straight at this field. And I was thinking, like, if he's gonna pee, this is the weirdest thing I've ever. What? So it was kind of muddy, and he goes traipsing out there with his own torch, and I just remember listening to the radio, looking around, being like, what am I doing here? Anyway, he came back about 25 minutes later, covered in mud up to his knees. And was a little disappointed because he had not seen what he was looking for. I thought it was a rabbit or a hare that he was looking for. He thinks it was a porcupine. I don't know. But that was a good example of, okay, this is what's happening.
You've traveled on quite a few trips now with Jon. What is the most excited you've ever seen him when he's seen a mammal? What one has he just absolutely broken down and screamed hallelujah or wept or something along those lines?
I'm going to answer that question in 2 parts. One, I've never seen him so steaming out the ears as when I saw a flying squirrel in Costa Rica and he didn't. That was a bit of a chilly day.
That was actually a pygmy squirrel.
Sorry. Pygmy squirrel. He did see it another time. But most excited, I don't know, it's hard to tell because Jon gets really quiet when he's seen something. Like when he's actually seeing it, that's it. That's all he can see. I would probably say the eye that we just saw recently in Madagascar. I mean, that was a really special evening, hiking up a really difficult, slanted hill and trying to be quiet and waiting for it to come out. But we were all just lying there on our backs at like a 45-degree angle, holding ourselves up and waiting for this eye to come out. And it got dark and it came out, and it was just such an incredible moment of everybody was quietly, just like, oh my gosh, there it is. And then it was such a good sighting that it gave us almost an hour show. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably, in person, that's probably the most delighted I've seen him. I will say though, the footage from you guys seeing the pygmy hippo is, it's up there, but I wasn't there.
Yeah. We were both pretty excited at that point, weren't we, Jon?
Yeah. We were. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask this next question with a degree of trepidation. But it's all right. I've got a big mute button over here, and I went on to the chat AI bot and asked it to answer the question of why it's wonderful to be married to a mammal watcher. So if your voice suddenly turns into Alexa, then people know what's going on. But what advice could you give to someone who is either married to or the partner of someone who, shall we say, is very enthusiastic about mammal watching?
First of all, contact me directly to join the Mammal Watching Widows Club. It is unique in that I don't know a lot of people that I don't know a lot of people that have their partner has gone a lot. I would say try some different ground rules so that some normal life can exist alongside the mammals. I mean, it's not just the trips, it's all the time that it takes to research what's been seen on the trips and editing the photos, which there could be thousands at a time from trips, and then writing a report and verifying species seen and then verifying with other people that were on the trip. So it's not just the trip itself, it's the background work. I mean, that's really a labor of love and time, not only for Jon, but for the rest of us, me and his kids who are just like, we're ready to go. And he's like, I just have one more thing to edit. So I would say some balance. He jokes about balance, that I mention it often, but my advice would be just try different ground rules, see what works and what doesn't. Like one of ours is, he goes on a trip. If we're not together, then come home for 2 weeks and let's sort of get grounded again and taking a pause from editing and writing, so we can spend some time together. Now, it's also important to speak up if, you're getting to know your own comfort level with some pretty extreme travel in certain cases, so for instance, one of my, now I know it took a while to get there, but I know that I need running water at least every third day. That's my baseline. And knowing this, I think it makes it easier for Jon to be able to say, I think this might be a good trip for you to come on. I don't like days and days of driving. I know that about myself now, but at the beginning I didn't, and I didn't always have a very good time. And it takes work in just finding things that work for you, so that which trips you'd enjoy and your partner knows which trips you would enjoy as well.
Right. Yes, I still remember one of the early trips that went on with Lara, and we had our daughter who was probably about a year old, and various in-laws and my parents came on this trip, and I had planned it specifically around the mammals that I wanted to see on the South Cape. And we moved location every single night for 10 days. Let's just say I was not the most popular person on the planet by the end of that trip. Right. Oddly enough, it's the last time I've ever had to organize one of our trips together. But,
strange.
Also, traveling with the group, it's nice to be able to see people. It's not so often it happens, but getting to travel with the same people on various trips. Like I was in the Amazon with Jon, and Ian was there, and Cheryl was there. That's where I got to meet Cheryl and Tanucci and Fiona Reed. And I mean, that was 2 weeks on a boat with people, and it was like one of my favorite trips. I mean, the mammals were amazing, but it was the whole experience of getting on canoes and just waking up, and I have no idea where I am in the world. I know I'm on the Amazon, but I have no idea. And there was something really fun about that. So say yes to everything at first, and then, figure out where your comfort level is and share that with your mammal watcher in your life.
Right. Though you do make a very interesting point, which, to be honest, I don't think we've ever discussed on the podcast, which is that the actual trip itself is only part of it. And as you mentioned, there is a huge amount of time that goes into actually planning it and preparing the travel and making sure you've got the right tickets booked and all the rest of it. Visas, all that sort of thing. And then when you come back, cleaning all the equipment, checking the species, writing it up. And of course, for Jon, it's much more so because he's got the website that he has to run and make sure it keeps on going at the same time, etc. So I think that's probably, I see a podcast there in the future, John, where we perhaps elucidate a little bit more on that. But yeah, it's a very good point, Amber.
But I do get to hear a lot about other people's trips and where they are, and the same names come up, quite a bit. And I feel like I'm sort of vicariously following along, but I have my own little business, and I very much a full life of my own. But it's fun to just see that continuous thread, and it's especially I'm just so impressed and proud of Jon and you and members of the community that make this community and keep this community growing. When I met Jon, he had like a really dinky little website. I think he'd agree with me. And I used to be in tech, and it's like, you got it. This is such important stuff that you're putting up there, and you're managing so much content that's coming in from all over the world. It's got to be better represented than that. So we spent a good 2 months, just sitting at the dining room table, migrating it all over to what you see today. And, even more exciting, there's an incredible version of the site that's coming up, very shortly, in the podcast and all the new members. And I love talking about this to people, and encouraging them to submit reports, even if they are, a rookie, because it is an interesting perspective. And that's how I see it.
Yeah. Okay. So one last question for you, Amber. II aside, I know the II sighting was amazing, astonishing, crazy animals. But what has been your favorite mammal sighting?
Lesser capybara.
The lesser capybara.
Yeah.
That's a choice out of left field.
That one I was not anywhere on my horizon. Okay, why?
That's the first. The reason is that's the first mammal that I spotted.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that was in what, central? It must be Panama, something like that. Where was it?
Yeah, in Panama.
Panama.
I mean, it wasn't just the one you spotted, right? It was the one that I was looking for that you spotted. You spotted it for me.
He was holding the binoculars, and we're standing on this landing, and I just see something moving in the distance, and I can often be heard saying, "Is that what we're looking for?" Sure enough, there it was. Really invest in spotting. There have been at night, basically looking for eye shine and whatnot. Don't be shy about calling out anything you see. The sooner that you spot the thing that everybody's after, the sooner you get to go back to camp and have like a cup of tea and go to bed.
Well, Amber, thank you so much for your insights, just regaling us with some of your stories. And particularly, I particularly like the fact that you say that when Jon sees a mammal, he becomes quiet. Okay, yeah. I think that's an important piece of information that the world needs to know about Jon.
Yes, very important.
Thank you, Amber. That was I think some of your insights there, it was almost like a Freakonomics podcast for mammal watching. You had some, what really motivates kids and partners to look for mammals, and what are the true costs of a trip beyond the actual time in the field. A very interesting insight. So thank you. And also thank you for continuing to be such a great brand ambassador for mammal watching. You really are. Thank you.
You got it, babe.
So one of our next guests is someone who I'm sure you'll know from his very entertaining trip reports, and that's Ian Thompson, who joins us with his family from his home on Vancouver Island. Tracy Watchurst, Ian's partner, was along with Ian with me in Madagascar. She has traveled a lot with Ian and Mammal Watch with him, as have his two children, Ben and Josie. And I'm hoping they're going to share one of my all-time favorite stories about mammal trips with the family that have gone ever so slightly wrong. Over to you, Ian, Tracy, Josie, and Ben.
Thanks, John. Maybe I'll set a little bit of context, and then I'll turn it over to the family, who will undoubtedly remember it more vividly than I do. So in the fall of 2013, was looking for a trip for the upcoming March break, and thought we'd go down to Guyana for a couple of weeks. It was one of the few countries in South America I had not visited, and there were a couple of interesting ecotourism projects that I was interested in seeing in the country. And so with great excitement, announced to the family we're headed off to Guyana. We had our first couple of days in Georgetown, and then decided to take the bus through the country so that we could visit a couple of the ecotourism sites on the way. And so we left Georgetown about 6 o'clock in the evening. And maybe I'll turn it over to someone else to describe the bus trip a little bit.
Yeah, so it's a microbus, and it fits quite a few people, but it wasn't full. And I was kind of wondering, why do they drive at night? I still don't know why they drive at night. And so we took off, and there was a folk festival outside of the city that everybody was returning. It must have been Sunday night, and so there was a lot of traffic coming into Georgetown. And as we're driving out and the sun's going down, a car unfortunately hit a parked truck that was full of debris, and the passenger, I think, was killed. But when the car hit it, it flung out and it hit our microbus. And our bus started teetering back and forth. And of course, there's no seatbelt, and the kids are, in front and behind. And anyway, the driver was amazing. He got the bus settled, and we're all alive. And he took a tree trunk and he straightened out the wheel well, and we're all alive. And police came and took statements from various people, and then we're on our way. And we were given a new bus driver and a new bus. And in Guyana, they stop you every hour or two, I think, and pull you over and ask for ID. And we got pulled over at about 1 or 2 in the morning, and we had to go into a police station. So we file in, and there's the police captain behind a table, and they're quite keen to have these tourists there. And I look at the wall, and there's this menu, and it says prisoner's menu, and it says breakfast at 6 and lunch at, dinner at 12 and dinner at 5:30, and then there's a policeman standing there, and then there's this door with a little window, and you see these eyes peeking out, and thinking, okay, that's the prisoner, obviously, who's gonna get his food. And so we're back and forward and sat down, and the captain's questioning us, and then he's like, welcome to Guyana, like it's a great start to our vacation. And as we're driving along, the driver then pulls off in the middle of nowhere, and it's pitch black. And he said, I have to sleep now, I'm tired. I wasn't expecting to do this drive tonight. So he turns off the engine, and he listens to what were the singers again?
The whole night, he is blasting mainly Celine Dion, but also some Sheryl Crow. So for I forget how long it was, 18 hours. It's just so loud. Celine Dion in our ears. Cannot sleep anyways because of how huge the puddles are. But yeah.
It was like swimming the whole night, and the kids would be like, can you turn it down? I'm like, no, he can't, he won't. And so when we finally got off the bus, we were all really happy. I thought we'd used up our karma, traveler's karma, done. We can't get into any more buses anymore. It was muddy, it was dangerous. Anyway, we did make it to the end of the road to a beautiful community-run resort, and it was very, very cool. And I think, was that the place?
Surama.
Was it Surama? Yeah.
The counterpoint to that is, one thing I remember from that bus ride is we were going through Iwakramma Forest about 6 in the morning, just at dawn, and there was a tapir standing in the middle of the road. And I just remember being jolted awake on one of these bumps and looking up and seeing this tapir framed in the road for a second. And fortunately, that sort of blanked out all the memories of the car accident and everything else for me. Had quite a memorable swimming experience there, and I don't know whether Tracy or Josie, whether you want to tell.
Was it that day Ben went fishing with the guide? And what did you catch, Ben?
Oh yeah, I caught red belly piranhas, and we ate them for dinner. They were so tasty. It was good.
So Ben had gone fishing in the river to catch piranha, and I said, can the kids go swimming in the river? And he said, sure, no problem.
Yeah, our guide every night, when it's pitch black, he had no flashlight. He'd be bathing in the river. It's the Amazon, and it's pitch black. He's bathing, makes it look easy. Anyways, so I remember Ben swimming, no problem. He just got in there swimming around. I didn't want to go swimming. I knew that there were electric eels. I knew there were stingrays, piranhas, you name it. It's in
Caimans,
that water. Yeah. So I didn't want to go in. And after a lot of convincing, I finally go in with my brother. And we're having fun. I'm forgetting about the piranhas. And then I see this really like cool looking log. I'm like, oh, what's that? I swim up a bit closer to it, and then I start screaming, and I'm like, it's an anaconda. And I knew right away, because we had seen one a few days prior in like this kind of sketchy zoo. Anyways, I scream, I run out of the water, I go back up to where my dad and the guide are. I'm like, there's an anaconda in the water. They don't believe me. They think I'm being a dramatic 13-year-old. They're like, there's no way it's actually an anaconda. Sure enough, everyone goes down there. It is an anaconda, and we were swimming right beside it. Yeah.
Well, and isn't Ben still on the other side of the river at this stage?
Yeah, Ben had clambered up on a rock. I had the camera. I actually took photographs of it, but the anaconda was very interested in Ben. It kept angry and looking at Ben.
Yeah.
Like, can I eat it?
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
We had a couple of other sort of less than optimal parenting moments at Surama. The first night we're out doing a night hike and with the guide on the trails, and the kids are scampering ahead to show how independent they are. And then all of a sudden they come running back with the most wide-eyed look I'd ever seen. And they're like, Mom, Dad, there's a really big cat. And we walked a little ways further, and sure enough, there were fresh jaguar tracks in the crossing the trail. And it was interesting because after that, the kids stuck much closer to us for the rest of the trek. The other funny incident I remember from there is we were sitting down by the river by the little palapa at night, and a snake popped out by the fire. And it looked to me like one of those Imantodia sensual, a harmless snake. And so Ben said, Dad, can I pick it up? Because we'd enforced this strict rule that, no picking up of snakes in tropical countries unless they've been ID'd first.
It's my role, yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, sure, Ben, you can pick it up. Ben picks it up, then I realize it's not the snake I thought it was. And I made the mistake of unfortunately saying that out loud, not just keeping it inside my mind, which then engendered a comment from Tracy's about, my lack of parenting skills.
Some people might say it's amazing the kids are still alive and happy and speaking to you.
Right?
That's good. But I also think the other story I love is that the fact that you are still smiling and talking to each other because Tracy saw a wolverine and you didn't, did you, Ian? And to make matters worse, Tracy's Instagram handle is Wolverine Watcher.
Oh dear, that's below the belt. Come on now. You can't do that.
I'm sorry.
There was really no need for that in my mind.
No.
The other memory I'm struck by on that trip is once we'd gone back to Georgetown, we did a day trip down to Kaieteur Falls by plane, and we met a
Canadian
mining engineer who'd been on an so-called eco trip in Guyana, and I think you remember that better than I do because you were chatting with him.
Oh, he just said he was with this eco group and lots of young people, and so they were doing the same bus trip we did, the road across Guyana, and he'd said there were a bunch of vegetarians and vegans on the bus, and the driver, it's a nighttime drive. I don't know why they do it at night. So he's driving along. They see a tapir. It's really exciting. Well, this guy stops, gets out, shoots it, and throws it on top of the van. So all the vegetarians and vegans and eco tourists are like horrified. One guy was so apoplectic. He just he had to leave. He flew out the next day. Bit of a culture clash,
Yeah, not a country for the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
No, I think that was something that struck me a number of times there, because it's really, I mean, as a traveler, as a visitor, there's some fascinating experiences, but some of the sort of rough edges of the tourism industry haven't quite been buffed off yet, and so I found it fascinating from that perspective too.
Yeah.
Do you remember the missionary couple that we met?
Yeah. I felt bad for them.
we were headed down after Rewa. We were headed down to another lodge called Mapaima Eco Lodge down in the south in the Kakadu Mountains, and we got into Lethem early in the morning on the bus, and I phoned our contact there, and he said, "Oh, we weren't expecting you today." He said, "You know, we're in a bit of a situation," because he said the lodge that we used to have, it's all fallen down, and so it's not usable anymore. But he said we could probably do a camping expedition. So I said, "Oh, you know, we like camping. That's fine." He said, "Okay, take a cab to this this little village, and we'll meet you there." So we took a cab ride out to this village called Napi, and when we got there, I was a bit disconcerted because I was expecting something in the forest, and in fact, it's a little village with the land cleared for miles all around, and far off in the distance, you can see a little bit of forest. And so we met up with the chap there, and he said, "You know, our camping gear, the tarps and stuff, they're not good. It's going to rain. You'll be washed out. Why don't you stay in this little house here in the village?" And while we were having this discussion, a missionary couple from the States had stopped by with their two kids, and the chap who's organizing it for us sort of rushed off to find them alternate accommodation in the village. We asked him, you know, in terms of transport, how we could get out to the forest, and he said, "Oh, well, you can go by ox cart, but you know, it'll probably be several hours to get out there, and then you'll have to come back at dark." And we're sitting there looking at each other thinking, "Oh, geez, you know, I'm not sure this is what we're really looking for," particularly after having had such a great experience at Surama and Rewa earlier. So we packed it up and headed back into Lethem, hoping to get a plane out the next day, but in fact, we're stuck there for a couple of days, unfortunately. We did meet the American couple and their kids a couple of days later, and it turns out they'd stayed in the village and had sort of sat there looking at somebody's wedding pictures for the entire day, and that had been their sort of their eco experience in the village. But,
sharing a bed with the family.
Which again, I'm not sure is exactly what they might have been expecting.
One of their poor kids had motion sickness. I was just like, oh my god. Traveling on that bus with motion sickness. Yeah. She looked haggard, the poor woman. It was brutal.
Wow.
When we went to Kaichu Falls on our way back, a cab driver picked us up, and he had been a young man during the Jonestown massacre, and he had a license, so he'd been hired by the CIA or the American government to help clean up. So we're in this cab, and this cab driver is elaborating on his stories of the Jonestown massacre with my kids in the car, and I'm like, this is so interesting, and this guy obviously has to unload. And I was like, I want to hear a story, but I don't want the kids to hear the horror of Jonestown. And it's just like, when is this cab drive going to end? He said, going up in the helicopter and looking down, it was like a carpet quilt. It was amazing and horrifying at the same time. I'm like, oh, it's brutal.
What a trip.
It was a good holiday.
You got good, obviously some good stories from it. Yeah.
The funniest bit for me was when we came back to Canada, and Josie had a writing assignment, what I did on my March break, from her teacher. And so, you know, she's writing about car accidents and fishing for piranhas and swimming with anacondas and all the rest. And I think the teacher actually called and asked whether this was, you know, a particularly disturbing, you know, nightmare or something. And we had to reassure that no, in fact, that had been our family March break vacation.
In some countries, social services would have been round and taken them away. So, he got off easily.
Josie and Ben, do you get taken on quite a few of these wild family trips?
Yeah, I'd say quite a few, more when we were both living at home. But Guyana was definitely the most dramatic.
It was.
Yeah.
Borneo?
Yeah, like, yeah, done other like wildlife centric trips, but none with car crashes. That was new.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different twist, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you,
No,
Josie,
it's-
you've just done a wildlife trip on your own. Your dad was telling me about
I wouldn't
Kangashan
call
in
it-
Thailand.
It
So waiting
wasn't
for the trip
exactly
report.
a mammal watching trip. It was
Oh,
more
come
of
on. Don't yours okay. Your
a
friends aren't watching.
backpacking in Southeast Asia trip, but did see some animals.
You saw you saw two sun bears. You saw a bunch of stuff.
I
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I saw 2 sun bears, saw porcupine, palm civet. Yeah.
Gower?
Gower.
In the
Wow,
forest.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Really?
You said banded langur and dusky langur?
That sounds like a mammal watching trip to me. Sorry.
Right?
Yeah, really.
It's
Yeah.
clearly a mammal watching
Yeah.
trip. 5 days in Kane Kratchen, that's
Yeah.
a mammal watching trip.
Definitely.
Right. You can
Fantastic.
plead the fifth on the rest of the activities, but that is definitely.
But she kept sending us pictures of these beautiful beaches, and I said to you, finally a beach you could swim at, and she can read on the beach and just relax.
Yeah, it was a different vibe with me calling the shot.
I kept calling them Josie's beaches.
Tracy claims we have the world's largest collection of family photos of kids on deserted beaches with no one else in sight.
Where you can't swim because of the bull sharks. Don't go in the water. What are you thinking?
And Ben, what about you? Are you getting hankering to go off and do your own safaris now?
Yeah, I think I will. I haven't actually been outside the country since 2019 on a class trip to Russia, but I'm hoping to go to China decently soon. And then I'm likely going to be taking a gap year, and then I would love to go down to Mexico and
Oh, cool.
maybe visit, like, I don't know, like not a crazy mammal watching trip, but like there will be some mammal watching.
Very good. This is the spirit. Your father is beaming with pride from ear to ear, I can see.
And you know, China just today has opened up to the world. So
Ah.
yeah, just read it.
Ian, Tracy, Ben, Josie, thank you so much for those great stories about a memorable trip to Guyana.
Yes, highly entertaining. Thank you very much.
And our final guest today is Stephen Arthur, who is Cheryl Antonucci's partner, and they've been together for feels like a couple of years. Is that right, Stephen?
Feels like a lifetime.
And Cheryl has made what may be later seen as a tactical error of not being on this call because she's at work. So Stephen has carte blanche now to really talk about what it's like being the partner of one of the world's foremost mammal and primate watchers. And I know he's got some stories that I've heard from Cheryl. She's put her own spin on them for some of their early trips together, but now is a chance for Stephen to spill the beans on the first sort of period of his partnership with Cheryl and some of the trips they've taken. Welcome to the podcast, Stephen, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Welcome indeed.
So Cheryl gave me some suggestions of things you might like to talk about. And one of them, she said one of the first trips you took was to see some bats in a cave in Alabama, that everything was a bit strange. Would you like to talk about that?
I mean, from the outset, Cheryl is a very unique individual. I think anybody that knows that about her. And she's always had a fascination with my demise for some reason. But yeah, we drove from Virginia to somewhere in Alabama. I'm not even sure where it was now, but yeah, I was expecting to arrive at something like a national park with a parking lot, signs and things like that. But it wasn't. It was just a gate going to a pathway that led into the woods. And I'm like, this probably can't be what we're supposed to be doing here. So, but yeah, that was to look at. So I think there were gray bats.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So yeah, we got in there. Nobody else was around. I'm like, this is just kind of strange. But and also I've driven there on my own because Cheryl likes to sleep. As you all know, she can hit the switch and she's sleeping during the boring parts of any journey. So, but yeah, we got there and it was actually a really cool experience. I enjoyed it a lot. But we found a bunch of trees down and some film crew showed up. and they had no idea how to get their stuff in there, and it was a mess. So I was like, I ended up clearing the path for everybody to get in, and I'm looking at her going, really? You guys, how do you survive? So that was really cool. And then, it was interesting to me that a lot of the people who were there were supposedly mammal watchers or animal watchers. Just no idea how to get to where they needed to be, standing in the wrong place to look at them and stuff. So it was interesting.
And was it at this point that Cheryl realized you were a keeper, or do you think she got to that already?
I realized that yet, to be honest with you.
She will when she hears this.
I think that might be the thing that made me a keeper was I am actually an infrared thermal expert. So I brought an infrared camera. She's like, oh, this is cool. I use them to look at buildings for leaks and stuff, but she's like, you can find stuff with this. That was our first trip, but I realized then that going on a road trip with Cheryl doesn't involve any conversation on the way there or the way back, because she will be asleep.
Steve, can I ask, when you first met or started dating Cheryl, how did it work? Did she sort of sit you down for the conversation and explain to you that you are going to spend an inordinate amount of time standing outside Batcave? How did she break it to you?
Well, it wasn't really something that needed to be broken to me, because we'd met years ago, and we've been friends on Facebook. I'd seen her try. I was always amazed, like, where the hell is she now? You know. And then it was only 3 years ago, I guess, we kind of became an item, and so there was never really that discussion. I always knew that this is what she did, and it always amazed me that she could do it. I mean, she's away 5 times a year minimum. It's one of the things that attracted me to her, and so there was never that discussion. I knew that's what she was all about, and I thought, okay, cool.
So here we have officially being a mammal watcher is attractive to the opposite sex. Good to know.
Well, you've got to have something, John.
We can be proud. And another story which Cheryl's mentioned to me several times, but I don't really know the story, is about looking for swamp rabbits, America's biggest rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
And something about a picture of mine that it was annoying.
It's false. Your picture is false, John. Now we went, I think it was to Missouri we went. I can't keep track. I mean, the one thing about Cheryl is I can't keep track of where we're going next. But we went looking for swamp rabbits somewhere in Missouri. And they were basically stalking us around this swamp. And we were on a boardwalk type thing. And then we turn around and you see a little, rabbit butt disappear under them. They're hunting us. And then we went to another park looking for them. Didn't see anything. But this is my one claim to fame. I have 2 claims to fame over Cheryl. One is I actually spotted the swamp rabbit. She didn't. And 2, I've seen a hedgehog and she's never seen a hedgehog. So.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah, but at the end of that trip, she showed me your picture of a swamp rabbit. And I think you'll agree, John, that a swamp rabbit is defined by its name, right? It's a rabbit that lives in a swamp.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So pictures of rabbits sitting in somebody's front garden.
It was on the edge of a swamp and it just happened to be chewing that flower. Like a country western singer.
I'm not buying. I consider myself an expert, having spent a whole 6 hours looking for them. So.
And the last story I would wonder if you wanted to share was something about in Ecuador in the Napo Valley and Cheryl running off without you, not telling you.
Oh, Ecuador was amazing. It was my first concern, and it always has been a concern when I go on trips with Cheryl, is I'm always at the back of the pack. Like everybody else is out in front, and I'm like, and in the back of my mind, I always see the scene out of Jurassic Park when the Velociraptors get those guys in the field.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why am I at the back? That was first, but I actually made videos on my phone saying if I disappear, so hopefully somebody will find this message kind of thing. And then, but yeah, I guess I'm not that agile to move to where they see things or what have you, and they dart off. And I'm talking to myself half the time on trips with her because she disappears. So, but yeah, her and the guide had seen something, I guess some kind of primate, and all of a sudden I'm standing there. There's a snake on a tree, so me and the snake hung out, and I'm like, I have no idea where they're going. I couldn't hear them, I couldn't see them. I was like, wow, just left to my own devices. So, but yeah, that was a good trip. I enjoyed that trip a lot.
And have you started to appreciate watching mammals now? There are so many different mammals, and many of them, let's face it, look fairly similar. You know, there's some differences that distinguish the species, but to a novice, you know, they pretty much look the same. But have you now started to enjoy it more?
No, I've always, I share, my hero growing up was David Attenborough, just like Cheryl. So I always loved natural history and all that stuff. So it's not a huge leap for me to get interested. But there are certain things that I'm like, it's another groundhog, okay. This one has a white tail. But no, I enjoy. I've always been envious of her lifestyle because I'm like, I'd love to do that. I've always been paid to travel. Most places I've traveled in the world, I was paid to go. It was for my job and what have you. But I've always enjoyed. I worked in Dubai in the desert and stuff, and I've enjoyed watching the wildlife out there. So, so it's not a huge leap for me to enjoy what she does. You know, I think going to stores pre-trip has been an eye-opener for me when she's like, well, go find me something I can pee in while I'm sleeping in this tent. Like, I've never gone shopping for that before. Yeah, those are I share her passion to a point. I haven't dedicated my life to the way that she has, but I'm very interested in all this stuff. So I just wish you wouldn't desert me in the Amazon once in a while.
And do you ever take any normal trips together? Are you trips that where you actually? No, you don't. Okay, fine.
We haven't got time for that. You know, we're going to Utah, I think, for a squirrel. I don't know. I'll go, but just to keep the peace.
I bet it's the Utah prairie dog.
Could be.
I'm guessing. You should know, but yeah. I was watching Amber smile in the background about the line that we don't have time for normal trips, a sort of knowing smile.
Yeah, well, we did go down to her favorite part of the States, I think, is Alligator River, where all the black bears go up. So I did manage to squeeze in. My interests are engineering, like planes, trains, all that kind of stuff. So we did get to go see the Orville Brothers stuff. So,
yeah, that's pretty cool. Stephen, thank you. That's excellent. That was great stories, and good to know what happens behind the scenes with you and Cheryl. Thank you very much for joining us, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you guys.
Yeah, and I hope that you don't drive too much of a wedge between the two of you for you having seen the hedgehog and her not. So good luck with that.
I'm holding on to that little gem.
But given your expertise with thermal images, there'll be a whole load of other mammal watchers in the queue if you ever do find yourself single. So
possibly including John and I. Yes,
that's right.
We don't need to go that far. If you want some advice, just ask. Okay.
Okay.
You've been listening to Mammalwatching with Charles Foley and Jon Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.